Hello and welcome to the first ever Rip It Up album review on YouTube. For those of you that have been following the blog over the last 4 months or so, you'll know that we reviewed a heck of a lot of albums because we did a lockdown albums thing where we went through and reviewed as many albums as possible. A big old list, short reviews, and now we're going to do some of those on YouTube, doing brand new albums that have been released in the last few days. I'm going to start off with a review of the brand new album from Swedish rapper Bladee, and the album is called 333. So first, it's worth noting that this is the first Bladee album, solo album, since 2018's Icedancer. He has released music with the rest of Drone Gang, Echo 2K and Thaiboy Digital, with Trash Island in 2019, and he also released a mixtape earlier on in the year called Exeter. And for me, 333 is an extension of this new, more atmospheric, more experimental phase that we're seeing Bladee going through at the moment, and it feels like it's a longer version of Exeter. But I feel like, because it's slightly, I thought Exeter was really good as mixtapes go. I feel like this is good, but it's not as good as Exeter in my opinion, in total. Nonetheless, this has some better tracks that would absolutely demolish the tracks on Exeter. So firstly, Wings in Motion, guitar ballad, opens up the album, and I think it's a really nice track. I feel like lots of people might slate this because it brings the album in very slowly, but it shows that the album is less trap focused, and I think that's really refreshing in a scene that's often criticised for being too samey. I see lots of stuff being said, especially by hip hop fans who are more into who have kind of been listening to perhaps artists who are a bit more original, like Kendrick Lamar, Kanye West. Again, they set a tone. Migos as well. You get a lot of kind of copycats these days, and I feel like if you're making trap or you're making cloud rap, as Bladee is, then you don't want to be the same as everyone else. That said, I feel like the Swedish cloud rap scene has been more of an influence upon others than copycatting other ideas from a lot of the American cloud rap we see. So Wings in Motion sets the tone for the album as being less trappy, and I think it's a really nice tune. Going over some of the tracks I really love from this album. Firstly, Don't Worry. It's the second track on the album. For me, the first strong track on this album. It's got really strong production on it. I really love the beat on this track. I just think it slaps. I think it's a great tune. I reckon it must be one of the best tunes that Bladee has produced to date. I'll come on to that a bit more in a minute. There's something else I want to talk about this album. Other tracks I really like. I really love Mean Girls and Innocent of All Things. I think they're both very strong tracks. I like the beats on them. I think they're classic Bladee in terms of the vibe and the kind of the vibe of the track and what the song is about, what the lyrics talk about. That's no bad thing, and I think that they're very strong tracks from this album. Equally, 100s, which comes just before that, I don't think is a particularly standout track, but I think it's worth noting that I have seen some comments online that suggested that Young Lean was on this track. I don't think he is, but it definitely has a Young Lean feel to it. It's very reminiscent of some of the work we've seen recently from Young Lean in Stars. So, again, another good track. I also really like Oh Well. I think that's a really good track from this album. As the name suggests, it's quite melancholic. But yeah, I think it's. I don't think it's. I don't think it's again going to be one of Blade's biggest tracks he ever releases, but I think it's a good song nonetheless. And I quite like a bit of a wild card. Quite like Noblest Strive as well. I like the crescendo in that. Builds up really nicely to this nice euphoric atmospheric ending. Well, just before the ending, it actually drops off a bit. And then we've also got Exeter, which I think is a really strong track from this album. Reminds me in some ways of D&G, the album released by Dre and Gang collectively back in 2017, which I think is my favourite album from possibly not only Dre and Gang but also from the Swedish cloud rap scene in general. And then Swan Lake as well, final track, is nice, calming, nice and soothing, and I think that's a great way to end the album in my opinion. Now, tracks that for me are a bit dull. Reality Surf is a bit dull for me. It doesn't really do anything. I feel like it's album fodder, not really particularly of worthy comment, notable comment I should say. I'm also not too keen on Keys to the City. I feel like it's especially after it comes after Don't Worry, and I feel like it's instantly dropping back the kind of the watermark for this album. Hero of My Story 3-style as well is I really liked it at the start, and I've kind of gone off it a bit after a few more listens. I don't think it's as good as I initially thought as a track. And also, just the worst track on this album for me, Valerie. Something about the vocals I just do not like at all. It's just the vocals from Bladee on this track are completely uncohesive. I meant to say incohesive, and I don't really know what he's doing. It's like he's trying to chase... It feels like he's trying to chase the beat at moments, and sometimes he runs in front of the beat, and sometimes he's stuck behind the beat, which I guess is probably just the experimental flavour that we've seen a bit more with these more recent Bladee tracks. I think Valerie is my least favourite track on the album. So yeah, as an album, I'd say it's a solid album. I don't think we've seen peak Bladee in this album. I think the production is a lot better than on Icedancer. I don't quite know off the top of my head who the executive producer on Icedancer was. The executive producer on 333 is Whitearmor, who produces a lot of Dre and Gang's music. And there's also some production from Good as well, who has produced a lot for Young Lean in the past. I think production wise it's very strong. Bladee starts to take a few more risks with his music in this album. I think we're seeing a bit more variation in his music, and I think that's a sign of his growth, and also a sign of growing potential as well. I definitely think that Bladee could produce an album over the next few years that is a really strong record. This for me is a good record, but nothing more than that. I'm going to give it a 6+, just because I think the production is really good. Bladee could do a bit more to spice things up, I reckon, with this record. For me, Blade's best ever track and strongest track that he's released is Be Nice to Me. It's also a popular song as well by Bladee. It was the first song I ever listened to by Bladee. And I don't think 333 has a song that's quite as strong as that. I think the one that comes closest is probably Don't Worry. But then again, I don't think it's got as kind of a catchy earworm beat and lyrics as Be Nice to Me. But that's just my personal opinion, and people might disagree with me on that. Let me know what you think in the comments. So yeah, 333 by Bladee. it gets a 6+. It's good work from Bladee, and it's definitely one of the better albums produced during lockdown. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. There'll be more album reviews on the way. In the meantime, stay safe and peace out.